All right, everybody. So today, what I'm going to do is show everybody how to meter that we have up here at the top, and we're going to make it respond to anytime we have some damage. So we've already got the damage thing set up. The stuff scrolling down the side there is something I'm working on next, and we'll jump into that. But we want to make the fear meter like what I have at the top right now. Okay. So to do that, what we'll have to do is we need to make an entirely new user interface. And to do that, we're going to have to jump into some space we haven't been in before. So let's go into our user blueprints. Let's see, mine are in that purple folder right there. And we have all this. You know what? It actually might be better to have a user interface folder. I actually have one right here. And what we want to do is right click. We're going to go into blueprints. User interface. That's where we want to be, down here at the bottom, user interface. And then we're going to go to the widget blueprint. Okay, so we just want to do a user widget blueprint, the typical one we want to use. And for this one, this is going to be something that we're going to use to keep track of our fear meter. So I've already used fear meter here. So I'm going to do WB, that's for widget blueprint, underscore UI. And actually, it's not a UI, it's a HUD. So I'm just going to do WB UI HUD Fear. That's going to be our new one. And we got to go in and build it. So first time you jump into a UI builder space, this is for HUDs or for user interfaces, either way. First thing you got to do is you got to load in a canvas, because that's going to be the space that you're going to be using to kind of outline where the screen will be. And next thing is going to be an overlay. This is something that will be on top of your screen. So we'll just drag that in. You can drag it into here. All right. And this, I want this to be anchored kind of in the middle. So what you want to do is click on your overlay, go over here to the right side where we have the details, and we want to set that anchor right here. Now you can put the overlay anywhere you'd like, but it's going to be anchored to that part of the screen so that as the screen changes size, it knows kind of where to put stuff. Okay, so I want to go ahead and drag that overlay out a little bit, because this is going to be our fear meter right here. Okay, and I'm going to be making it kind of similarly to what we did previously. So the actual meter is going to be a progress bar. Okay, so I'm going to grab that progress bar, drag it into the overlay. And right now there's nothing in the progress bar, so we're going to go over here to the right, and we're going to give it, right now it's on 0%. We're going to fill it all the way up to 1, and we need to give it a little bit of color here so we can kind of see what we're looking at. All right, so we don't need an image for this one. Go down here to the color fill, want that to be red. Okay. And oh, there's our progress right there. It's got its own anchor. Actually, I want to put it right inside the overlay so it's inside of it. And to make this something that is spread out through the entire space, I need to go in, and we want this to take up the entire area. So I'm going to go up here to where we have horizontal alignment. I'm going to have it take up the entire top and spread all the way across. Okay, now if we want to, we can add a little bit of padding in so it has some space around it. So I'll probably add a little 10 right there, just add it all the way around. 10's not going to be much, it'll just give you kind of a little edge on there. There we go. Okay, now you can see a little bit of an edge around where the dotted line is. It's not that crazy or anything, but that's kind of how you can massage it into the shape that you need it to be. And since we want people to understand what this is, we also need to add in some text. Now for some reason, there we go, whenever I grab the text or type in text, it goes a little nuts. So I'm going to guess that's something fun with UE5. But the text block itself, we want to go ahead and center that and then put that right in the middle. Now I will show you guys how to add in some other fonts in here, but I've actually added in other fonts that will help me have a little more personalization with this. And so I went in and found a TTF font. You can also use OTF fonts. and those can be dropped into Unreal without too much trouble at all, and used inside of your user interface without too much addition, any kind of changes or anything like that. Make sure you get free ones because you don't want to pay for anything, obviously. And we have this set up right now with text block. I want to go in and I want to change this to fear, because this is something that we want to kind of keep a track of here. And then so I know what this is in game, I want to change the name right there. There we go. Now I want the size to be a little bit larger, so I'm just going to increase that. That might be a little too big, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but the progress bar is the main thing that I want to make sure we have a lot of information for. So I'm going to call that fear meter. So next thing we're going to want to do is, now that we have the fear meter set up, I'm also going to want to go in and let's see, I've got that set as a variable. This is one of the more important parts right here, is making sure you have this check right here for that variable. And that's so we can access it on the backside. So now that we have everything kind of set where we want it to be, let's go into the graph. And we're going to see that over here we have fear meter as a variable. And that's going to be something we're going to need to be able to use a little bit later on. So first thing we're going to need to do, excuse me, we can just get rid of these. We're not going to use them, not for now anyway. We need to make a custom event. And what that custom event is going to do is it's going to set, it's going to receive and set a lot of the information that goes on the screen. So for this one, we're going to call this update fear meter. Okay. And then from here, we're going to set the percent for the progress bar. Okay, so the progress bar right here is set by a percentage. If we go back in here and take a look at it very quickly, the progress bar itself, you'll see the percentage right here is what's filling it up. So as I decrease it or increase it, that value is what's going to fill up that progress bar. Actually is a pretty good idea, because if we set it up based on some other kind of numbers, then they wouldn't always match up. If we do a percentage, we always can kind of understand what it's supposed to be doing. All right, so from the update fear, we're going to set that percentage. So we'll need the fear meter reference. We're going to just drag that in, and then we're going to set percent. Okay, now from here to here, we're going to have pretty much everything we need, but we're going to need to get some information from our character as it's playing. So we'll need to add in some inputs. Okay, so as this thing gets updated, it's going to bring in some information. In this case, we're going to need current fear, which is something we already have set up on our player character. I believe it is a float, so we're going to keep with that. And we also have maximum fear, max fear, we'll just call it that. And that one is also a float. And you see how they just show up right here. What we're going to need to do whenever we update this information is we're going to divide the current fear by the max fear, and that will give us the percentage that we need for this. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit compile. As far as this is concerned, as far as everything inside of the HUD is concerned, we're pretty much done. We don't really have to worry about that too much more. Now, the next thing we need to do is we're going to need to go in and create a new controller. Now, we don't necessarily have a space already built for this, so we're just going to do it outside in the whole content area. I'm going to right click in here, and we're going to go into blueprints. Let's see, actually, I'm sorry, blueprints up here at the top. And we're going to get a game controller. You can see that game controller right here. And let's call this BP underscore. I've already got a third person controller, so let's say horror character controller. Too many L's. There we go. Okay, so we have a horror character controller, and what we're going to do with that is just set up the controls for our character. Everything that goes through the controller, this is kind of how things are handled within the game. So if you have things that have to pass through the character and be sent off to different parts of like the engine, so like if you're running into videos or you have to control some information or any kind of networking or anything like that, it needs to go through a controller. So with this one, we're not really going to have to do much out here. Everything's pretty much set for us. We just need to go into the event graph. We're going to add a couple things. First thing is we need to bring it into the actual space. So what we'll need to do here is on the event begin play, we need to create it. So we're going to pull off of the event begin play, and we're going to do construct. Well, we need to create, actually, I guess it's create widget. There we go. Now when this pops up initially, it's going to have some changes as we go through this, because we need to select the one that we just made. So I just made WBI UI Fear Meter. Yep. Actually HUD Fear. That's the one we just made, because I made the point of saying this is not a user interface. So I want to make sure we do that. Next thing we want to do, so now that we have this set up, we can right click on this return value. We're going to turn this into a variable, so we can set that. Let's give that new variable a name. Probably just WB Fear Meter, so we know where this is headed. Okay, and that's going to be an object reference for the WB HUD that we just made. And then we want to add it to our viewport. Okay, this is the last part that actually makes it show up in our game. Okay, there's our viewport. Excuse me. And we want to make sure we hook up that target so we have that reference all the way through. Okay. Next thing we want to do is we're going to be making an update function. So this is going to be something that happens whenever we pass information back over. So if we go back and we look at our HUD, right here we have update fear meter. That's what we're actually going to be sending the update to. So if I go back in here to the, I think I can get rid of that, and we'll keep the character. This is just going to be a custom event. Okay, and this one we can just call update fear meter, or we can call it update. Let's call it update. Let's keep it as update. Okay, and then from there we want to drag off the fear meter. We're going to get a reference for that, and we're going to do update fear meter, because that's the one that's actually out in our user interface. Okay, so I'm going to hook this up, and on this update right here, we are going to have some information that we need to pass over. So what we'll need to do is add on these things. Now sometimes you can just bring these back and it will allow us to make the pin right here. So it'll build those. Whoops, I need to disconnect that one. I need it to be add pin to node. There we go. There we go. So that means anytime we bring this stuff in, it's going to feed right back into the update on the HUD, and then we'll be able to show that to the screen. Now, as far as the controller is concerned, pretty much everything's ready to go. We just have to flip the controller that's being used right now. And to do that, what we want to do is go into our world settings, which we're already on it right here. You might see details. We just want to go to the world settings. If you don't see those, we want to go up to the top, go to window, and you should be able to click on world settings, and that'll bring it up. We want to be inside the game mode area for this, and right now our player controller class is BP third person controller. We want to switch that over to our HUD that we just made. Oh, sorry, no, that was let's see, the controller we just made was, oh, horror character. That's right. There we go. Okay, that's the one we need. So now that we have that all set up, we can actually hit play, and we should see it. There's our fear meter. That's the one. We gotta add that stuff to our character, and then we'll be ready to go. But our fear meter essentially is ready to go. Let's go ahead and hook it up. We have to be in our third-person character. I'm just gonna get rid of a bunch of stuff here that we don't necessarily have to have. Okay, just get rid of that. That's some old code that kind of was getting played with. And let's build out what we need here. So inside the player, our player character, you know, actually we had some of this stuff already built. I didn't have to get rid of everything. Some of these elements we already had built because we had these printing out to the screen, and everything else afterwards is the stuff that we don't really have to have now. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. We do want to keep this, however. So on event begin play, we want that to start feeding out information. Everything over here too, we don't necessarily need this. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. Okay, these are all just extras that we don't have to have. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. There we go. So y'all are probably looking at something similar as far as these two hunks of code right here that we're feeding out to print strings, so you can see the damage or the fear that people were gaining. So you should already have current fear, minimum fear, possibly, and max fear. Those are the ones that we built previously, and we want to make sure that we have those before we move forward. Event trigger fear, this is just a something that was pulled from the interface, so that's where this information is coming in from. And an event begin play, this is just setting some things up initially whenever we start the game. We could also do this inside of the construction script, but we're going to kind of stay consistent with this one. Okay, so what we want to do from here after we have that set on the event begin play, let's start there. This is the one that's going to be kicking off as soon as we start the game. So let's put this on top, just kind of keep all of these things straight. Right here, we're going to feed this over to cast to, this is going to be casting to our controller. So we're going to do cast to our horror controller right there. And we want to get the controller. So we're going to pull off of this and we do get controller. Okay, excuse me. Okay, and there we have our pawn. And then after this, what we want to do is we want to go to the update function that we have here. So we're going to run over to side off that execution pin. We're going to do update. And there we have update for the BP controller. That's the one we're looking for. And then we just got to feed the current fear. Let's go ahead and open that up. So we'll get current fear. We'll feed that in. And we'll get max fear and feed that one in as well. Okay, and there's not going to be a lot of difference in what we're going to be doing next. This is just kind of set everything up. Okay, and on this one, we were just tying this back to a print string, so we don't really have to have that anymore. We're setting it right here at the top, so and then using it over here. So nothing to really worry about on that. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that one. What this is doing right here is anytime we touch a fear grenade, then this interface will kick off and start running through here. So we'll get our current fear, we're going to add that onto our, we're going to get the fear level from the grenade, we're going to add that to our current fear, and we're going to feed that in and set that current fear. So from there, we're going to do a very similar thing to what we did up above. We're going to cast to our controller, and so I'm just going to copy and paste that, bring that down here. Okay, and this is really about it. This is about all we have to do to get this working. Let's see if it is actually working. Oh, hey, we got a little problem here. Let me check update. Both of our updates aren't working. I have a feeling I know why, but let's go back to our controller here. Everything's compiling without too much trouble. We have update right here. This is the update that we're trying to hit. Let me go back to our third-person character. Try compiling one more time. Nope. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and rebuild this. Excuse me. There we go. Okay, so we have our controller, and I'm going to pull off of this one and get our update. Okay, that should be our update right there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit compile, and we are still getting an issue down here. That's fine. We'll get rid of that. All right, so far we're doing pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and bring in current fear, and I want to get our max fear. I'm going to go ahead and bring that in. Really didn't see too much of an issue with this, so I'm just rebuilding it as is. We'll just test this out now, make sure everything's okay. All right, that compiled without an issue. Just to be safe, I'm going to pull off of this instead of copying it. I'm just going to do update again. Okay, or controller, that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and compile one more time to make sure everything's still clicking along like we want. Okay, looks good. And max fear. Everything looks fine here now. No issues whatsoever. All right, well, let's go ahead and hit play. And we're starting off at 0, which is good, so everything's grayed out. And we're starting to get a little bit of an increase on our fear meter. And we hit the next one. Each one of these should be adding on about 10 to our total. So if I hit that last one, it should be right in the middle of our fear meter. And there we are. Okay, so that is the basics of setting up a progress bar fear meter. I'll add some more onto this a little bit later so you guys can start gathering some more information. But as far as creating your HUD, that's it, y'all.